I never thought I'd be writing something like this at 68. I always imagined I'd be somewhere peaceful at this age, tending to flowers in the garden that my husband planted, maybe reading on the porch, waiting for him to call me inside for tea. But life has its own way of changing your plans when you least expect it. It's been almost 2 years since my husband George passed away. Even now, I still find myself reaching for the other side of the bed in the mornings. That quiet space feels heavier than any weight I can describe. 40 years we were together. 40 years of love, arguments, laughter, routines, and tiny moments that no one else will ever understand. You don't think about what life will be like without someone until suddenly they're gone. George and I met when I was 22. I was working as a receptionist in a small insurance firm, and he came in one day to sort out some paperwork. He was 24, with a calm voice and that kind of smile that made you trust him instantly. He wasn't flashy, not the sort who swept women off their feet, but he had warmth, a steadiness. He was someone you could lean on. We started going out for tea, then walks, then longer dinners. By the end of that first year, I knew he was it. We married 2 years later in a tiny church with my mother's blue hydrangeas on the altar. I still remember the smell, fresh and soft, mixed with the faint scent of rain that morning. Our first home was a little flat, cramped, but full of laughter. George worked long hours back then, trying to build his career. I worked part-time and did most of the home stuff, cooking, cleaning, budgeting. We didn't have much, but it never felt like we were lacking. We made do together. That was always enough. Then came our son, Michael. I remember holding him for the first time, such a small, wrinkled thing, and thinking, this is it. This is what life is about. He was our joy. We poured everything into him. George was the playful one, always down on the floor with him building trains or reading silly bedtime stories. I was the one who worried about his clothes, his school, whether he was eating enough. When Michael grew up and went to college, we were proud, but it was hard. The house felt so quiet, but George would always say, "We did our job, darling. He's out there making a life." And that's what Michael did. He made a good life, a good job, a lovely wife, and 3 beautiful children. When I first met his wife, Anna, I thought she was polite, a bit stiff maybe, but I assumed she was nervous. Over time, I noticed she wasn't exactly warm, but she made Michael happy, and that was enough for me. I never wanted to be the kind of mother-in-law who interfered. So I kept my opinions to myself and tried to stay gracious. Life was steady for many years. George retired early, and we spent our time traveling around the coast, visiting small seaside towns, collecting seashells for the grandchildren. He loved fish by the sea. We'd sit on the bench, the wind in our hair, and he'd say, "You know, darling, we've done all right." And we had. Then, one morning, he didn't wake up. Just like that. No warnings, no long illness. The doctor said it was his heart. I still remember standing there, staring at his face, waiting for him to open his eyes, waiting for him to move. But he never did. That was the beginning of everything changing. The house felt enormous after that. Every sound echoed. His slippers stayed by the side of the bed for months because I couldn't bring myself to move them. The smell of his aftershave lingered in the wardrobe. I used to sit on the sofa with his jumper on my lap just to feel close to him. Eventually, Michael began insisting that I shouldn't be alone. He said, "Mom, come stay with us. You'll be with the kids, you'll have company, and we can help you out. You shouldn't be rattling around that big house by yourself." At first, I resisted. I didn't want to impose. But the loneliness got to me. The long evenings, the silence. I'm not as strong as I used to be. My joints ache, and sometimes I get dizzy spells. I thought maybe it would be nice to be around family again. So I agreed. When I moved in, they made space for me in the downstairs guest room. The kids were excited. They helped unpack my boxes, showed me their toys, asked me endless questions. It felt comforting. I thought maybe this was how it was meant to be. A new chapter, a chance to be part of something again. For the first few months, it was fine. Anna smiled politely, Michael seemed relieved, and I tried to stay out of the way. I cooked dinner sometimes, folded laundry when I saw it piling up, and helped the children with homework. But then things started to change. It began with little things. Anna would sigh when I came into the kitchen while she was cooking. Not loud, just enough for me to notice. She'd redo things I'd already done. Rewash the dishes, rearrange the laundry I'd folded. Once, I heard her mutter, "It's just easier if I do it myself." I pretended not to hear. Then, one afternoon, I heard her on the phone. She was talking to someone, a friend, I think, and she said, "Some people just don't understand that when you're a guest, you're supposed to contribute. It's exhausting carrying everything yourself." When I walked into the room, she stopped talking and smiled like nothing had happened. That smile felt sharp, like glass. I wanted to tell myself I was overreacting, that maybe she wasn't even talking about me. But deep down, I knew. I could feel it in my bones. A few weeks later, I was sitting in my room reading when I heard them arguing upstairs. Michael's voice was raised, not something he does often, and I heard Anna say, "Why does she have to stay here, Michael? I don't have time to look after her." My heart sank. I froze, my book still open in my lap. I didn't want to hear more, but I couldn't move. I just sat there, feeling like a burden, an unwanted shadow in their home. When the argument ended, I went to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked old, tired, small. I thought, is this what I've become? A problem to be solved? Since that day, the air in the house has felt different. Michael tries to be cheerful, but I can tell he's torn. He loves me. I know he does. But he also wants peace in his marriage. And I can't fault him for that. But it hurts all the same. Anna has grown colder. She doesn't speak much anymore, and when she does, it's clipped. She no longer sits with me for tea or asks about my day. Sometimes I hear her whispering with Michael when they think I'm asleep. The sound of hushed voices late at night is something I'll never get used to. Then, a few nights ago, something happened that broke me a little. We were watching the news, all of us, in the living room, and there was a story about a new care home opening nearby. The reporter was showing the rooms, the gardens, all very bright and modern. Michael said, almost jokingly, "That place looks nice. Wouldn't you like to be somewhere you can be looked after 24/7, Mom?" "I know I would like to have that." He laughed nervously. I just smiled faintly and said nothing. But inside, I felt a kind of sadness I can't put into words. Because I knew that was his way of easing into the conversation he didn't know how to have. He's mentioned it twice since then. Little comments about what's best for everyone and how it might be nice to have your own space, Mom. Each time, I just nod and change the subject. At night, I lie in bed and stare at the ceiling, wondering how it all came to this. How I went from being a wife, a mother, a homemaker, to this, an inconvenience. A quiet old woman taking up space in a house that doesn't feel like mine. I think about George a lot. What would he say if he saw me now? Would he tell me to stand up for myself? Or would he hold my hand and say, "Let's go home"? He was always the brave one. I just don't have that strength anymore. Sometimes I dream of him. We're walking by the sea, just like we used to. He's holding my hand, and the wind is in our hair, and I can smell the salt in the air. And then I wake up, and it's dark and quiet, and I'm alone again. I don't want to go to a care home. I've seen those places. Some are nice, yes, but they're still lonely. People staring at walls, waiting for visitors who never come. I don't want that for myself, but I also don't know where else I can go. My friends have their own families. My siblings, the few who are left, live far away and have their own health issues. The thought of going back to my old house terrifies me. Every corner whispers his name. The emptiness there feels too heavy. Yet here, I feel invisible. Yesterday, I overheard Anna talking to the children. The youngest asked if I was going to stay forever. And Anna said, "We'll see, sweetheart. Grandma might find somewhere special to live soon." I felt my heart break all over again. Children are innocent. They just repeat what they hear. When I walked into the kitchen, Anna smiled, pretending everything was normal. I smiled back because that's what I do. But later, when I went to my room, I cried quietly into my pillow. I didn't want anyone to hear. I wonder if this is how it happens for most people. You spend your life taking care of everyone, and one day you realize there's no one left to take care of you. Not really. I keep asking myself, did I do something wrong? Was I too quiet? Too involved? Not involved enough? Maybe Anna just feels uncomfortable having another woman in her house. I understand that, but the cruelty of it, the silence, the small comments, it's unbearable sometimes. I miss having someone who sees me. Someone who asks, "How are you really?" and means it. The other night, I was making tea when Anna came in. She looked at me and said, "You don't have to do that, you know." Her tone wasn't rude, but it wasn't kind either, just indifferent. I said softly, "It's all right. I like making tea." She didn't reply, just left the room. After she went upstairs, I poured 2 cups, one for me, one for George, and sat by the window, watching the lights flicker across the street. I talked to him quietly, like I do most nights, told him I was tired, told him I missed him. Sometimes I think maybe he's still here, somewhere close. I feel him when the wind brushes my cheek, or when the kettle whistles. Small signs that remind me I was once loved so deeply. I don't know what I'll do next. I haven't told Michael how I feel. Not really. He's stressed enough with work and the kids. But I think I'll have to soon, because I can't keep living like a ghost in this house. I love my son, but I can't help feeling disappointed too. I raised him to be kind, to be strong, and I know he's torn. I know he feels trapped between me and Anna. But sometimes I wish he'd just look at me, really look, and see the mother who sacrificed everything for him. The woman who sat up all night when he had fevers. The woman who worked extra hours to buy him new shoes. The woman who gave her whole life to make sure he had one. Maybe that's the hardest part of growing old. Realizing the people you once carried now want to put you down somewhere safe and walk away. But I don't blame him completely. Life is hard, and people grow tired. I see it in his eyes. He loves me, but love isn't always enough to hold everything together. So here I am, trying to remind myself that I mattered once, that I still matter. Tomorrow, I'll get up, make breakfast for the children, and pretend everything is fine. I'll smile when Anna passes me in the hall. I'll listen to the laughter from upstairs and pretend it doesn't hurt. Maybe I'll call about a local community group. I heard there's one for widows in the area. Maybe I'll start walking to the park again. Maybe I'll find a way to exist without feeling like I'm in the way. George always said, "You're stronger than you think, love." I hope he was right. Because right now, I feel like I'm disappearing, fading slowly into the background of everyone else's life. But I'll keep going. I'll hold on to the memories of the man I loved, the family I raised, the life I built. I'll hold on to the laughter of my grandchildren and the soft sound of George's voice in my dreams. And maybe, just maybe, one day they'll all remember who I was. Not just a burden, not just an old woman, but someone who loved deeply, who gave everything she had.